Hello and welcome to the Brawl Hub's top 12 choices for Commander for Bloomburrow. I am Grimsign.
I'm B-Pro.
And I'm Hazor.
And we're excited to talk about this set for you.
Yep. This set will bring in the cards from both B-Pro, the Imagined Critters subset, and the special guest page. So we have cards from all of those three in here. In addition, we have our new commentator B-Pro in with us. So welcome, B-Pro.
Hello.
Are you
Happy to
excited to
be
be
here.
here?
Of course. Yeah. First time on. I love the show, and so I'm happy to join up.
All right. I think the introductions are great. Let's get moving on with number 12.
Yep. And our number 12 spot, we have Darkstar Augur. It is 2 and a black for a creature bat warlock with offspring for 1 black. What that means that you may pay an additional 1 black mana as you cast a spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token that's a copy of it. It has flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Use life equal to its mana value. So this is here because it's by itself a decent body. It's nothing amazing, but it's a decent body. But the real strength is that this can be your own Dark Confidant, by a little more expensive, but if you pay it for 4 mana, you get 2 Dark Confidants. So that's a lot of cards. You're going through 3 cards a turn if you play its Offspring cost, but you will have to watch out for your life total, because drawing 3 cards a turn, 2 of which are from those Dark Confidant triggers, is a lot of damage.
One of the more popular decks that are going to be probably using this is Yawgmoth in particular, because when you already got enough of a advantage through all the card draw from it, you can then use them as a sacrifice outlets to take out your opponent's big stuff overall. Not to mention the fact is that due to them having flying, they can just be used as decent blockers too for things that like Naru.
Yeah. For a lot of decks, it's great to have a kind of body that also gives you card advantage, and it can provide a lot of pressure, especially against more controlling or slower strategies. I will have to answer this very rapidly or be overwhelmed, and this is great, especially in decks like Crucius as well. Well, decent, because if it's a bad matchup, say you're into Ragavan, you don't really want to be playing any Dark Confidants, so you can just loot it away with Crucius' ability, and the 3 mana cost is the very good for finding 4-drops in the current version of Crucius, which grabs Shieldred and the One Ring with their 3-drop discards. So it seems like a solid piece overall, especially into control.
Yep.
All right, moving on, we'll go to number 11, Fireglass Mentor. For Rakdos colors, you get a 2/1 Lizard Warlock, which, at the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them until end of turn, you may play that card. Now, this card is very powerful in general due to the fact that you get a lot of advantage. Exiling 2 cards, picking one is usually a pretty common thing with these costs. And the fact is that sometimes you can just be aggressive, or you can just use something like a burn spell on them to just get that value going. And since it doesn't specify things like you have to cast it type situation, but you can play it, you can choose to grab a land if you're missing out on any land drops.
Yeah, generally 2-drop creatures that give card advantage, especially this one with some selection, are very effective. Of course, the opponent having to lose life is a bit of a downside, because if you're looking for removal, it might be hard to actually get through to dig for that removal if it's being blocked and you're not really able to get damage. But for aggressive decks like Judith and similar Rakdos aggressive strategies, this could be definitely a pretty effective option for card advantage while having a cheap cost.
Yeah, even with Crucius, which is a deck you mentioned before, probably the best Rakdos deck in the format right now, this card might see play in that even the mid-rangey decks are still hitting your opponent most of the turns, so this is, again, repeatable card advantage, always good, especially on a cheap body. And this will filter for it too, because 2 cards is more than 1, obviously.
All right, moving on, we'll go to number 10.
All right, so we have Keen-Eyed Curator here for, you can cast it for 2 green. It is a 3/3 Raccoon Scout, and it says as long as there are 4 more card types among cards exiled with Keen-Eyed Curator, it gets +4/+4 and has trample, and it has an ability that says pay 1 generic to exile target card from a graveyard. So the direct comparison to this is Scavenging Ooze, which is very similar, but with a smaller body and a less demanding initial mana cost. and also scales up when it exiles creatures and gains life, instead of getting a big boost +4/+4 all at once. And so this is more of a toolbox card usually, right? You want to tutor for this if you're against a graveyard strategy or something similar, and it can grow pretty rapidly. It's also quite aggressively statted. 2 mana 3/3 is very good. It can be played in decks like Galta, which has seen play in the league, and it's just a pretty cool creature overall.
Yeah, I want to go in more into the Scavenging Ooze comparison because that's actually a card that's somewhat played in Slimefoot and Squee, and probably elsewhere, but mostly Slimefoot and Squee. It's really more of a side grade to that card instead of an upgrade, in that Scavenging Ooze does gain you life, which can be very significant in some matchups. But this card will buff itself, and you don't have to exile just creatures to do it, which is what Scavenging Ooze requires. So you can exile your opponent's spells or lands if they're getting them back out of the graveyard also, and still get full benefit.
One of the things I really like to think about with this card is just in general delirium. The the fact that you can turn off someone's delirium in the middle of them like going for an attack with something like a Dragon Rage Channeler could make a huge difference overall, because then not only are you gonna probably make your thing into a 6/6, but then you just turn the thing into a 1/1 and thus easily slaughter it.
Yep, it's actually a 7/7, not a 6/6.
Yeah, the trample is pretty
Indeed.
huge.
Yeah.
Indeed. Bye. Anyway, moving on, we go with number 9.
Yeah, we have Baleful Strix, a pretty well-known card. It's a blue and a black for an artifact creature bird with flying death touch, and when it enters, draw a card. It's all 1/1. This is just a well-known card in that it is a creature that cantrips and then also has a very easy ability to block your opponent's creatures because it has death touch. So it's frequently a 2-for-1 card. The thing with Baleful Strix and why it's so far down here, being such a well-known and strong card, is that there's not a lot of places you can play it in this format because you don't want to tap out often. So this will see play in Rafine and other Dimir tempo decks, but in things like Rusko, you'll want to think twice about playing this. Their Rusko decks might want it, they might not, just because tapping out is such a big cost.
In general, I think that with Baleful Strix, another thing you can think about is with ninjutsu abilities type situation, because due to it being a 1/1 with flying death touch, your opponent's probably not going to be blocking it, which allows you to get through with that. Then you can cast it again, get another card draw, and also get whatever you got from the ninjutsu effect. So you're getting more and more value from it.
Yeah, I mean the inherent 2-for-1-ness of Baleful Strix is not to be underestimated, but it definitely needs testing because a lot of blue decks won't want to tap out for this on turn 2. It could be solid as it just, it's always a threat, even blocking, so it'll definitely need testing in a lot of decks, but it's quite the cool card, and I'm happy we're getting it.
Yep. And
All
once
right,
Yuriko,
moving on.
oops, sorry, I was gonna say,
Uh,
once Yuriko's on Arena, this will see much more play.
all right, moving on. We're going to number 8, Fountain Port. Which is a land that can tap for colorless, or you can tap 2 in it to sacrifice a token to draw a card, pay 1 life and tap for 3 mana in it to make a fish token, or you can pay 4 mana, tap it to create a treasure token. One card a lot of people will think about when they read a card like this is Trading Post, which was a really fun artifact in general, and they could probably see it doing the same shenanigans with it. I think in general, though, this is going to see a lot more play overall, because the fact that it doesn't read creature tokens, and it can just pump fuel itself overall, allows you to just get more value compared to something like the Archer of Araska, which needs you to get to Ascend and then pay 5 mana just to get it.
Yeah, in monocolor decks, which can afford to play colorless lands like this, I think this will be an effective tool in some of them. I'm not sure how much play it will see, but it's definitely quite the cool card, and the fact that it fuels itself is very nice. Just the ability to make bodies is not to be underestimated. Mirex is like a fringe card that this is pretty obviously an upgrade over. The tokens can block, you can get card advantage, and I think it's definitely a cool option that a lot of modern decks will probably at least try, although they might put it down. We'll see.
Yeah, the aforementioned Murex, which is a card I completely forgot about until now, see us playing some control decks. Same thing with Castle Ardenvale from Eldraine, and I can definitely see this card while being colorless, being played in control and also monocolor decks, because you can make those tokens. That life cost could be relevant in a controlling shell, but if you can't make the fish, then you can also just make treasures and sacrifice them every other turn. So it's still not that bad, even if you can't use it to its full effect.
Alrighty, moving on, we got number 7.
This card is Hired Claw. For 1 red, you get a 1/2 lizard mercenary creature that says whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to each opponent. And you can pay 1 and a red to put a +1/+1 counter on it. And you can activate this ability only if an opponent has lost life this turn. It can only activate it once each turn. So this is a 1-drop, pretty good. And notably, the most notable interaction I think is that it fuels itself. It enables its own ability. So if your opponent has a 2/2, they can't block it after attacks because you're threatening the activation. Even if you don't actually spend that mana, you're holding it over their head, which is my thing I like about this card. It's a nice and aggressive. Notably, it's a red permanent for a Johnny. It definitely could be tried there. And it's a pretty cool card overall.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this card. Grimstein probably has more than me. I just have it. It's effectively a 1 mana 2/2, and 1 mana 2/2s are good. So Grimstein, take it away.
Well, in general, a Hired Claw is just going to be a 1 mana 2/3 if in general, but it's a bit more than that. The fact is, you can use it when your opponent cracks a fetch to pump it up can make a lot of things because you could attack with it, pump it up during your turn. Your opponent plays a land, the fetch land because they're top decking. They crack it type situation. You now get another activation. You can use it defensively, offensively, because there's going to be cards like Mana Confluence. There's going to be other things that your opponent's going to be burning themselves to try to get an advantage over. And you can get an advantage against them because they don't think about reading the card to explain the card.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We got number 6.
We're not quite in the top 5, but number 6 we have Plume-Creed Escort. It is 1 in the blue for a creature bird scout, 2/1 with flash and flying. And when Plume-Creed Escort enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. So this creature, it's reminiscent of the Cyber Cryptomancer card from March of the Machine. You probably haven't heard of it because it's unplayable. But the thing this bird has over that is that it has flying and a power stat that is not 0. And because of that, it will see play in tempo decks, things like Rafine and other blue-based tempo, because it protects one of your creatures and is a solid body with flash. And also in Nadu, because again, protects Nadu, has flash, targets is a body. So we'll just see play in a lot of different decks in the format, and is a solid card in general.
Well, as general, yeah, we already mentioned the whole Nadu situation, but it's also very interesting in general because your opponent could be using things to target your commander all the time, right? But sometimes there's always a situation where you can just flash it in for something like Sheoldred's Edict, so that you can just sacrifice it over hitting something like a Nadu. And then you would just give Nadu protection, get its trigger, all that. Or you can even just target itself type situation just to get the triggers. It's very versatile as a card, and I'm excited to see how it's going to be played.
Yeah, I think another good comparison is Spectral Adversary, which is similar, but you have to pay mana to phase out your creatures, and it's seen play in Rafine in the past. And I think this is pretty obviously better, and so I think it's definitely a great card in decks like Rafine that want those aggressively statted flying bodies. Like this is definitely quite the card, yeah. And it also triggers Nadu. So what more can you want, honestly?
All right, moving on. And speaking of cards that trigger Nadu, we got Paw Patch Recruit at number 5. For 1 green mana, you get a Rabbit Warrior with Offspring 2. So you pay the 2 mana, you get a 1/1 copy that token version of it. It has trample, and whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, with +1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. So already you're gonna get 3 bodies for 3 mana. I mean, 2 bodies for 3 mana type situation. But then you also get more advantage overall. Say you have, as I mentioned with Nadu, you have the Paw Patch, and the token. Then you play Nadu. Your opponent uses a push on it, or a removal spell on the Nadu. That triggers the recruits. That triggers Nadu. The recruits target each other to put a counter. on each other, which will trigger Nadu. So now you're getting from their one targeting spell, you're getting 3 cards out of it.
Yeah, this is a great card. Super aggressively statted. 1 mana, 2/1. In the past, has already been playable in decks like Adeline, aggressive decks. And this has much more text than just that. The trample and growing other creatures is super good. It's a great green card. Nadu is the obvious user of it, which could be playable in there, but it's definitely a great green aggressive creature. Super good. 1-drops are great. And if any green aggro decks come out in the future, this will definitely be part of them.
Yep, I think a good note on this is that last ability, it's targeting a creature other than the one that was targeted. So if you play this and then a 2-drop, it will target itself and it'll become a 1 mana 3/2, which is pretty big. I mean, they killed the 2-drop. This is what I'm going for in this line. But 1 mana 3/2 trample, very good. And then yeah, that Offspring 2 lets you put 2 1/1 counters on a creature every time something is targeted of yours, which is a very sizable upgrade to any body you might have on the board.
Alrighty, moving on. We are getting to our number 4s.
Yeah, now we're really moving into the heavy hitters here. We have Jace the Mind Sculptor. I'm sure many of you know this card. 2 generic, 2 blue pips for a legendary Jace Planeswalker, who starts with 3 loyalty, has a +2 to look at the top card of target player's library. You may put it on the bottom. +0 to brainstorm, -1 to bounce a creature, and -12 to win the game, also known as exile someone's library and their hand goes into their library. And this is quite the famous card. It's a very powerful threat. Notably, when you play it, you can bounce creatures 2 turns in a row, which draws parallels to Teferi the Time Reveler with the bouncing on Planeswalker entering, which is super good. And then once you take over the game, you can start +2ing and making your opponent's draws much worse and tilting them to death. And yeah, it's overall quite the effective card and doesn't need much explanation. I think it's playable in probably some control decks, maybe some tempo decks, and it's really great overall and cool art.
Yeah, very cool art. One of the best 4-mana, if not the best 4-mana Planeswalker, as far as I know. I've actually never played with a JTMS before, so I wouldn't know exactly the use case for this, but the abilities do everything. They make your opponent's draws bad, it makes your draws good if you use the 0, and it bounces stuff on the board. So yeah, it does pretty much everything you would want out of a 4-mana blue Planeswalker.
As a whole, just a lot of people keep on forgetting how good Brainstorm is as an effect, right? Because especially, but with Jace, it's basically a brainstorm a churn type situation. So, and then you say you had a fetch land too. So you just use his brainstorm, you draw the 3 cards, you put 2 on top, you play your fetch land, you crack it, you shuffle those cards away. Now you got 3 new draws ideas overall, comparatively. Honestly, it's the fact that this card was banned for a while in Modern and only came unbanned due to the way that the growth of the game was. That it's still somewhat a powerful card. It really does show that it's gonna probably make even be its own commander for Brawl.
Yeah, I think Jace as commander is a little bit of a bait because Mono Blue I don't think has the tools to exploit him perfectly, but definitely in 99s he's going to be a menace.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We got number 3.
Yes, we have Sylvan Tutor, a very simple card. It's 1 green mana for a sorcery with search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. For all those green toolbox decks, which is most competitive green decks, if I'm being honest, this gets you that one specific creature you wanted out of your deck, puts it on the top so you can draw it, hopefully this turn, but most likely next turn. And that's really the only downside of the card, is that it's the cheapest tutor we have in the format, but it does come at the cost of not going directly into your hand. So that is the only thing stopping it, is that if you need it in a pinch, it might not be ready for you.
Another downside is the fact that it's a sorcerer speed type situation. Without like mystical tutors, all that type of situation, it usually has that instant speed unless it's a really strong card like I think Vampiric Tutor is sorcery as well, but that puts any card on top and you don't reveal what you put on top.
Mhm.
But here you have to specifically go for a creature card. So, but in general, the fact that it is in green makes the most sense because let's face it, in green you're gonna get all the good things. You're gonna get Puck. You're gonna get Galta if you need to have a big payoff for it. You can just get a Behemoth on top of your deck to just win the game the next turn. There's so much value from it that waiting a churn can sometimes just be a small cost overall.
Yeah, I think a big use case of this is going to be in decks who want to just say, okay, look, Emrakul's on top, impending doom approaches. Like, what are you going to do about it? And I think it needs testing in a lot of decks because the card disadvantage and the slowness, the relative slowness of needing to wait a turn to draw it, will be relevant for some decks. But I think it's definitely quite the cool card, getting tutors. And also, if there are decks that deal with the tops of their libraries, then it definitely has use cases there as well. And yeah, definitely quite the cool combo card.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to say, like, before we go, off this card, is that the playable decks, most green decks are toolbox decks in the competitive. You have Nadu. Nadu will play this. It finds your Bristly Bill. Azusa will play this. It finds your Emrakul, as we said, and stuff like Slimefoot and Screed probably plays this too, because they run spawning pod for lines. This will just get you to the top of that line immediately. So,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, and the
Awesome.
one cost allows holding up interaction pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, we're going to number 2. When this one could be argued to be number 1, but we put it at number 2. It's the Revi Imperial Tactician. For green, a white, and a blue, you get a legendary creature, Bird Wizard, with flying. And when the Revi Imperial Tactician enters the battle, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may tap or untap target permanent. Then, for 1, a green, a white, and a blue, you can put the Revi from your battle onto the battlefield directly from the command zone. And it has the stats of 2/3. Now, this card, I don't think I can even just describe how insane it's going to be in this format. Dear Lord, it's going to be powerful. The fact that you can do the ability to put on from the battlefield onto from the command zone at instant speed, and it avoids command attacks alone makes it such a powerful card. The fact that it will untap any permanent, not just a creature, but you can untap a land, you can untap a planeswalker for some reason. There is so much you can do with it.
Yeah, it's really quite the card. There's a lot to say about it. So first, it can't be countered, right? You pay to put it in, right? No more Cavern of Souls necessary. You got Cavern of Souls automatically for your commander. He just comes in. He has no command tax, so kill it all you want. It will keep coming back. You cannot outcost it, and once you have 6 lands, like you always hold up counter magic, you get your Derevi coming back every turn. It's gonna be really hard for a lot of decks to deal with it. And you can have cards like Winter Moon that make it hard to untap lands and then tap down all your opponent's lands and slaughter them. You can wait until after blocks are declared and then play Derevi and untap all your lands and hold up counter magic. And it's going to be a monster of a tempo deck. Definitely going to be a very good deck in this format. Yeah.
Yep. As you mentioned, Derevi comes in combat, and after it sticks 2, all of your lands become effectively double mana because you will swing in, untap all your lands after you dismount them on your first main phase, and boom, all your interaction is now held up. And yeah, the biggest thing is the no commander text. So if you're in the eventual top deck war of the control deck, if it comes to that, this commander is it's asking to be removed because it's a relevant flying body. So every removal your opponent draws will go to your commander, and at that point you're probably winning the game because you're drawing more than them because your commander is always free.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. Crazy commander.
Very.
Moving on, we're
We
going
have
to our finale.
Bird. Yep, the big boy or the little boy, Birds of Paradise. For a green, you get a 0/1 bird that has flying and taps to add 1 mana of any color. Any color. Can you believe it? I can't. So, Birds of Paradise is a great card. Not too much to explain. Nice and simple. But the any colors are huge for 3-color decks and stuff that might struggle to include Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic. It gives lots of acceleration, and it fits right in when the Nadu Bird tribal deck. You get play your birds, and then you win the game because it's not really bird tribal. Yeah, the 1 mana of any color is super relevant. Also flying, so you can jump the 2020 Nadu that's coming in. And yeah, it's a great dork. Bolt the bird.
Yep, you definitely should bolt this bird because we can't bolt Nadu. Uh, but it loses the power from things like Halfling and Flight Halfling, Elvish Mystic. That's not relevant because you're never attacking with those anyway. I really do see this more as a side grade to Delighted Halfling, which might come as a surprise to some people, but that uncounterable ability is still really strong in this format. That being said, it's just a side grade, and Delighted Halfling is probably the best green card in the format right now, so this is also the best green card in the format by extension.
You already talked about like doing better than say Delighted Halfling or type situations like that. Because but in general this card really does impact because while Delighted Halfling requires you to use legendary creatures for the 1 mana of any color, Bird of Paradise can be for anything. You can cast it with an instant, sorcery, creature, mana, battle, planeswalker, whatever. He don't give a shit. Anyway, though, but the real key part about Bird of Paradise that really a lot of people keep forgetting is the fact that it has flying. In green, there's not a lot of one-drop flying bird type situation, or even a lot of flyers in green at all. It's one of the card designs that Wizards like to lower from of time to time because they think green having flying can be a bit too powerful in many situations.
I don't think flying is the main part, but it's super lots of acceleration. Green keeps slowly accruing more acceleration, and it gets faster and faster, and this is definitely helping with that.
Yeah. Worth noting with Grimstein's comment there, yeah, this is probably better than Halfling for those 3+ color decks, and maybe a little worse than Halfling for 2 and less color. But again, side grade, very good cards, both of them.
Yeah, this is a
Indeed.
dork you can play in 5C, which is not usual.
You can play this over Avacyn Pilgrim because it doesn't say you need to add a color of a specific type.
Yep.
So now you just basically can use it for any deck that runs green. 3, 4, 5, whatever. Bird don't care. Bird is gonna win.
Bird will win.
But this has been Bloomburrow's top 12 choices for the Brawl Hub. We hope you have a wonderful day, and please leave a comment to tell us which card do you think should have been on the list and which card we should have removed, you psychos.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Please check us out and come join our league. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Yeah, bye everyone.